we're talking about policy, it's always hard to strike a balance between what's missing and what's been achieved, but I hope that we'll manage to do this in this panel, and we'll talk about how far along Europe has come, but also what still left to be done. And of course, we have institutions here, so they're going to present what's been happening in terms of improving what our European startups can achieve. But I also want to hear directly from the entrepreneur on the panel, who's Gabor from Truckster. So first, can you tell us a bit about what your company does, and then about the funding you raised and how Europe played a role in that, please?
For sure. So hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invitation to the panel. Basically, Trucksters, we are a transportation scale-up. So we offer what we call the ultra express transportation. Basically, there's a problem in the industry, which is one truck driver can only drive 9 hours a day, and then he needs to rest 11. So what we actually do is we exchange drivers in certain points so that the trucks never stop in international lanes, right? So customers get twice as fast transportation, they get safety, because the trailers are not parked in a place where they can steal it. Actually, in Europe, there is 9 billion euros being stolen every year in parkings. So the customers get that. And on the other hand, these drivers usually spend weeks out of home. Mm-hmm. So by splitting a longer route into these segments, you're able to make the drivers come back home much more often. And just some numbers for you as well. We are now 103 people. Last year we closed with 20 million revenues. And actually about funding, this Monday we are announcing that we just closed 30 million round. In total, that's around 50 million that we've gathered so far, so we're quite excited about what's to come.
So just a quick follow-on, because we know it's really hard to raise in this context, and I just wanted to know how public institution or European institution we know may play a role in that at the moment for scale-ups.
So we've been here for like 5 years in the market, and back at the time it was a bit more difficult to get funding, but we've been seeing that all this ecosystem of investors was growing a lot. The money in the market was growing also a lot. What I think can really make you get money is actually the investment thesis of these investors actually changed over the years. So before, if you had a good idea and you had some growth numbers, it was like, okay, here's the money. And now that changed a bit with all this macroeconomic change and you know, the burst of some tech bubbles. Now what we are seeing is that investors look for 3 things, basically. One, that you are solving an actual problem, like a real big problem. Just to give some examples, in our case, we are solving driver shortage. So there's 200,000 drivers that are missing in Europe. For instance, the theft problem, like 9 billion euros. So investors first look at really the scale of the problem you're solving. Second, they look for track records. Before it was only growth. Now they look at growth and they look at profitability. Even if you don't have it, they look at like the trends that you're getting to that profitability. And third, I'd say that they also look for transformative visions. It's not only that you solve this big problem now, but also the problems in the future. If you have these 3 pillars, you're probably getting funding even today.
Well, thank you. The fact that you called yourself a scale-up, that really reminded me, Christian, of the mission of the EIF. So can you tell us a bit about that? First, maybe for people who don't know what the EIF does, and then maybe also the Tech Champions initiative.
Indeed. Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for the invitation. So the EIF it's an institution, it's a subsidiary of the European Investment Bank, and we are primarily focused on facilitating access to finance to SMEs. So we do it through two venues. One is providing guarantees to banks, so those banks can lend at better conditions and can also lend to riskier companies. And on the other side, we provide equity. We are an equity investor, an LP in the market. We've been investing in private equity and venture capital funds for more than 25 years. We support the full cycle from the seed capital to growth. And we do it through an intermediated model. So we don't invest directly in the company, so we do it through partners, which are in the guarantees areas. It's banks and alternative lenders. For the venture capital and private equity, we do it through private equity and venture capital funds. So this is our business model. Now, going to the scale-up segment. So what we realized there was a very significant gap with US, which is the most developed market for the scale-ups, i.e. those later rounds of financing. And we saw that the biggest gap was in the scale-up. So what we realized is that the gap in the earlier stages of financing has been closing up compared to the US, but when we compare the larger rounds, we are very far from the US. Just to give you a few indicators, the number of funds in the US which have sizes from 500 to 1 billion plus, so those are the funds which finance the scale-up phases of the companies. In the US, there's 7 to 14 times more funds than there are in Europe. So there's a huge market gap. So in this context, what we developed together with key member states in the EU and the European Investment Bank, we launched the European Tech Champions Initiative. This is an initiative which tries to address this market gap. So it tries to build bigger venture capital funds in Europe who can provide financing at the scale-up phases. This initiative was launched this year in February. Spain had a very important role through the Secretary of State of Digitalization and Artificial Intelligence in the design of this initiative. Also, Spain contributed 1 billion out of the total 3.75 billion. And what we're trying to do with this is to invest in around 10 to 15 big venture capital funds so that they can leverage around 10 billion of financing for scale-ups stages in the EU. The policy objective which we try to address here is that we try to support innovation in Europe in the transition from startup to market leaders, and that technology, those innovations stays in Europe, and that helps us make a more sustainable and competitive Europe. So this is the objective of this initiative, which was launched. It was presented in Madrid by the end of March with our Chief Executive and the Secretary of State of Carme Artigas, and we are very excited about this initiative. We're having other member states joining, and we hope we can support the larger VC funds in Spain and in Europe. So.
So Alejandra, you do work with Carme Artigas, and I think it was really interesting to see the change in our representation year over year, so maybe you can talk a bit about that.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Ana. So yes, as you said, and we spoke before, our Secretary of State was here yesterday, and I think the most important message she wanted to launch is that Spain will never be the same, because we have learned and we did what we said we were going to say, and investment, technologies, innovation, entrepreneurship were key in our strategies. And I think the main point is that we believed we could do it. We believe we could provide for startups from their seed stages up to their growth stages and exit stages. And we actually did. As you all probably know, and you know because we have spoke about it, last November our startups law was approved. This is a major change in the ecosystem because for the first time, we defined what a startup was. For us, for the people who's here in South Summit, that could be like a very basic thing. We all know what a startup is, but it's really important that legally that's defined, and the law does that for the first time. The law is also really focused on talent, attracting and retaining talent, not only Spanish talent. We want them to, if they had a good idea and they have the will to do it, they can do it here, as long as they want, through all the stages they want. But we also want all the Spanish talent that had to go in the past because we didn't have the structure to provide for them. Now it can come back if they want, but also for talent that it's abroad. If they're looking for a place to go, Spain is a really good place to come. We all know that. Now they can do it because this digital nomads visa allows them to. But we also wanted to reduce bureaucracy, tax income and everything. But we don't think we just need to make legal reforms. We need that the ecosystem has to be accompanied through all the processes. South Summit is a very, very good example of it. We were talking about how many people are this year here because the ecosystem is not the same as it was 5 years ago. But investment is a key in that. As Kristen already mentioned, Spain is leading as well that debate. In 2021, we launched the Next Tech Fund, which we doubled its size just in March when we announced the Tech Champions Initiative. It's now 8 billion. We had already signed 3 big operations and 3 indirect ones. We think, and it's obvious that the change is already here. The ecosystem will never be the same, but we also think we need to keep walking towards that in a European way, because we have seen other countries such as Italy, Portugal, they are now starting to write their texts, their laws, and they are actually quite similar to the Spanish one, because as we were talking with Arthur, and he will explain, of course, the ESNA, the 8 principles that are in the ESNA are reflected in our text, and we hope for all European texts to be based on that. But we need to keep working towards this European ecosystem, because if we in Spain do it, in Portugal does it, if Italy does it, okay, we'll have a perfect ecosystem in Spain, we'll have a perfect ecosystem in Italy, but we will not have a European infrastructure that actually calls for talent, that actually calls for investors. We need that European startups stay in Europe, grow as much as they can, and if they want, they go again and bring up another startup, so yeah.
So Arthur, I'm sure that resonates with you, and I also wanted to ask you about the role that Spain played in the creation of ESNA, but first, what is ESNA?
Well, first of all, thank you for the colleagues for the invitation to be here at South Summit once more. And ESNA is the result of a political will from 26 member states that commonly agreed on 8 best practices that reflects 8 concrete dimensions to help the landscape and the business conditions for these companies. And well, some of them were already mentioned here: the access to finance, the attraction of talent, but we can also look into how fast we can create a company if it's below 100 euros. Aspects like innovation in regulation, which I know of that, for instance, Spain is working on regulatory sandboxes, I believe for artificial intelligence. Other issues like digital first, in the way that these companies, the startups, need to relate with public entities in a digital format. It doesn't make any sense on 2023 to do it bureaucratically through other channels rather than the digital ones. So these were the 8 dimensions that these countries established and committed to implement to become startup-friendly countries. Now, this declaration has one nuance from many others that exist, which is going from an aspiration to operation, and thus the creation of ESNA, a unique platform to support member states achieve higher levels of maturity, to support them technically on the development of such policies, and to work for the future. So today we're talking about the 8, but tomorrow we live in a fast-paced environment. We need to change, adapt, and come up with others. And that's why ESNA is this platform of sharing, to learn from one another, and to keep growing, ultimately with a goal to lead Europe to be more competitive and to converge with other leading regions that were lagging behind in terms of what is the startup. Now, just answering for the part of Spain, Spain is a founding member. Since day one, Spain has been very supportive. They were there since...
It wasn't really long ago, right?
It wasn't... No, it wasn't really that long ago. We're talking about December 2021. And as founding members alongside with Portugal and Austria, they've been supportive. They're part of our presidency board. They have a member there. And in terms of concrete results, you can see it, everyone can see it right in front of us, the startup law. It goes towards every policy that is identified on the standards declaration.
And Gabor, as an entrepreneur, we talked a bit about investment, but what else do you need from the government? Visas, Nomad Visa, does it help? What are you expecting to see?
Absolutely it does. It sounds cliche, but really whatever makes a startup work or not is talent. It's the only way to have new ideas, fresh ideas, execute it properly. You need people for that. Spain is a great place to attract people. The weather is fine. The city is beautiful. So, of course, why limit ourselves to Spanish talent? Of course, there is a lot of good Spanish tech people and so on, but there is also, for instance, a lot of people wanting to come outside of Europe who has also a lot of talent who cannot do it at home, who are also eager to do things here. And these things, like the Nomad Visa, for instance, could be perfect.
And Arthur, I think there's something in the works also, a support desk, service desk.
Yes, yes, the Tech Talent Service Desk. So it's quite fascinating the way that ESNA has evolved throughout the presidencies of the EU Council. So once the declaration was signed with those 8 dimensions, which by the way has attract and retaining talents, tech talent into Europe, then during the French presidency, they wanted to take one step further. And that step further was exactly to compose a working group that studied deeply the problematic of the scarcity of tech talent in Europe. And they came up with a recommendation. The recommendation was exactly for an entity like ESNA to develop a communication platform where harmonizes all the relevant information that will attract this talent into Europe. So we're on the verge of working on this. So we're having multiple visions, which is a common European vision, where we display the enablers that Europe provides to this. Well, that could go even through the finance that is accessible, and the Commission is putting forward also to this ecosystem. Then to country lenses, but in a harmonized manner, because, well, most of this information exists regarding visas, working conditions, and so on, but it's scattered. It's not really, easy to consume and to find. So that's where we come in. We're going to harmonize it, make it clear. And the last stage would be to do a kind of a way to help these third countries to come to Europe, which is to say, throughout the multiple personas that the tech talent exists, which is, I'm a founder, I'm an investor, I'm a researcher, I want to go to this country or that, and then we just generate the opportunities and the relevant information for them. So that's what we're working on. Yes, yes.
Right. And Alejandra, I think something interesting about Spain is that the strategy is quite cohesive. Maybe you can talk a bit about that in the sense that at other institution levels, it's quite scattered, but not in the case of Spain. There is really a vision behind what's going on.
Yeah, so as we were talking before, and as I already said, we feel like at the European level, we think there's like in the theoretical work, there's a lot that has been done. We already know we have to bet for innovation, for technology. I think we're there, but you see the competencies are spread through different DGs in the European Commission, for example. We think in Spain we are making an effort, and the law contemplates that. There is just one open window for everyone, and an entrepreneur, someone who is looking for funding or that has any doubt regarding whatever stage of its process, that can go through one window only. And we think that's the way Europe has to start thinking about this development. We already push for that. ESNA is a great example of that. The Tech Champions Initiative is a great example of that. We are already working together, but we need the competencies to be gathered in one place so we know where do we have to go. So, as you know, Spain is taking the lead of this presidency, the Commission presidency, and it's going to be one of our key bets. No, entrepreneurship is in our strategy. it's key. We have done a lot of efforts on that way. We're not going to leave that out of our presidency. It's going to be in our line of works. We hope to have the ESNA in Spain during the presidency if we can, but we also want to put that into the debate, right? We need to find a way so that we know who in Europe has the competence for this matter, and we have only one direction, and we can all go, so we can have this European ecosystem we hope for.
So, Kirsten, I wanted to acknowledge two things you said. First is that Europe is closing the gap on early stage, because I think that's a big achievement. But then what else is missing for the later stage to catch up with the US, and especially at the policy level, what would you like to see more of?
Sorry, could you repeat the question? I could not
Later
hear well.
stage, what more can we do for more later stage investment in Europe?
Well, I think, ECTIS is already a big initiative. I think this is the rollout of this will generate a larger ecosystem at that bigger funds, which we are missing currently. And I think in Spain, we have a good, let's say, source of fund managers who are already managing sizable VC funds. So eventually, we will have a spread across Europe of larger VC funds, which will support these later stages. So I think it's a combination of many factors. The landscape, the knowledge sharing, the access to finance. So I think we're in the right way. The policies objectives are very clear, and I think innovation is key in not only as a driver for many aspects in the business, but also for the green transition. We think about the green transition is a key policy objective, but to achieve the objectives of the green transition, we need innovation, because a lot of the innovation still needs to be created to be able to achieve those green transition objectives, which Europe has set very important targets. So I think we're in the right phase. We are working all together, and I think we need the leadership of member state countries to support, like Spain has been doing, to push these initiatives. Hopefully more member states can join in the ECTI initiative. Currently we have 5, where others are considering joining also the initiative, so we'll have more resources and we can target more funds. So.
Great. And Gabor, as an entrepreneur, did it play, how important were these initiatives in you deciding to have a presence in Spain and in Europe more generally? Is it something you take into account, that there's a Dr. Road, there's Fondico and things like that?
Actually, in the beginning, we benefited from a couple of these initiatives. Like setting up the company was quite easy, I'd say. We also have some tax breaks in the beginning. We got soft loans from ENISA. So in the beginning, it helped us to get some easy money to play around with. And later on, with the seed stage and so on, then the other institutional investors started coming in, both public and private. So this thing that there's more startups in the ecosystem, it means that it brings more investors to the ecosystem. And probably the gap with the growth stage that you're saying, probably if there is more growth stage startups, it will also bring more growth stage investors. Right. So I think it's like a positive spiral that at least we are seeing in our own skin the trend upwards. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. And sorry, but I'm going to mention the elephant in the room, which is we have elections coming up, but still, what do you expect from the Spanish presidency of the Council that's coming up? What does that mean for ESNA? Do you expect more momentum or?
Well, that's in fact an elephant in the room, but the truth is we expect the same level of commitment. And the reason is ESNA was created by member states for member states. So this unique platform is for the countries to serve out of it and take advantage of it and collaborate and engage. So we're here for Spain like for any other country. And the reason is throughout our governance, let's say, out of the 27 members that we're supposed to have, then we have presidency board, which is in between this membership and the executive team. And the presidency board, the countries are selected to follow the same rotation logic of the actual presidency of EU Council. And the reason for that is for the countries who are in this non-executive body to lift and give higher chances to the entrepreneurship agenda, go hand in hand with the agenda that is the presidency of the EU Council is following. So we expect full commitment from Spain regardless of what's happening.
Yeah, great. And Christian, what's your perspective on European countries not necessarily competing against each other, but being more united in being startup nations, plural?
Sorry,
You
the
can
echo
see
is-
me. No, I was asking how Europe can be more united instead of having our countries compete against each other.
Well, I think, ACT is an example, where we're trying to unite knowledge, capital, and shared objectives. No, I think this is what we do at EIF. We manage EU resources, and we try to spread across Europe all of our products equally, so we can have a balanced access to finance, to all of the different EU member states. So I think we have also in periods of crisis like COVID, we had all the member states. It was another example how Europe was united and developed the Pan-European Guarantee Fund, which was managed by EIB Group, EIB and EIF. Again, it was another example where all the countries were aligned on how to apply financial resources in a very specific emergency period. So I think this kind of efforts where we're all aligned and we all contribute with our key. So we think that this is the key to achieve greater things in Europe. Right?
Mm-hmm. Alejandra, what do you expect from emulation between countries as well? Can Spain learn from other European countries as well?
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I'll just have to address the elephant in the room. I think it is my duty to say regarding the election coming up, which is there, and it's obviously there, our priorities for the presidency stay the same. Europe is Europe, it's a thing about everyone. ESNA is not a Spanish idea, it's a European idea for Europeans. So we hope to make it work just as we were going to do it in the first time, but just we expect as well the next one to come to take care of ESNA as the other member states have done, and a really, really long life for ESNA, as well as all the other priorities that we have that will remain the same regarding, it doesn't matter what happens, because Europe is there and is of course our priority. But yes, regarding what you just said, I think, and I'm going to quote the Secretary of State here, she always says, talent attracts talent. We need to make Europe, as I said, that place that attracts talent. Cool people like to work with cool people. Good ideas call other good ideas. And we need to think of Europe as that platform that works together, doesn't compete between them. We compete with other zones in the world, because that's what we have to do. We need to make Europe this talent, ideas, and innovation hub that is designed and meant to be.
Well, I think that's a great note to end on. I just wanted everyone to take away that, yes, there's still work to be done, but we've come a long way. So thank you very much for joining us.